Yes, people, welcome back to Albert JTV for another episode of Life Stories. Hashtag episode 9. But before we get into it, people, let's hit the intro. Another episode of Life Stories. Yes, my people, Life Stories is back once again. Joining me for episode 9 will be Stephen and GTalks from at Cannon Chatter, at Jake Clegg 28, and at the Mad Rambling 1. Let Life Stories commence. Welcome back to Albert JTV. And there we have it, people. A soothing intro to bring in the star-studded panel. Now, this is a bit of a rarity tonight because I've got a couple of people on tonight where I'm used to the one taking the back seat and answering the amazing questions. But now I'm asking the questions tonight. So, yeah, guys, I'm glad you firstly agreed to come on the channel and obviously for this particular content, which I've enjoyed doing so far. Hashtag episode 9. People, smash the like button if you haven't already. Obliterate the like button, should I say, sorry. And obviously for my audio listeners, I'll put this on my Spotify and Anchor later as well, so you can hear my dulcet tones probably tomorrow, because you might not want to listen to it tonight, but we'll see. Yeah, so guys, I'll get you away from the blood and thunder of Arsenal Twitter world. You know, this is a bit of a different kind of format in terms of how the questions are asked, but it's going to be an interesting discussion tonight. First, we're going to introduce my brother from another mother. Come back to the channel again. We are the Arsenal JC. Welcome aboard to Life Stories.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been watching this series now for quite a while, so I'm really glad to get the call up. And as you said, we've got a fantastic panel here tonight, so should be a good one.
No, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, so JC, the call up is always welcome, man. It's always welcome. And welcome back to the channel. I don't know how many times Keith's been on my channel, but you know what? It's glad to see his beautiful face again. Keith, at Mostly Arsenal, thank you for coming on, mate. How are you?
Good evening. Thank you for asking me back. I think it's about probably the 4th or 5th time I've been on with you. Okay. But I'll just echo what JC's just said. Like, Life Story is one of my favourite things on the actual internet. Genuinely, it's great hearing like other Gooners' stories and just their history of supporting this wonderful yet hatefully frustrating club of ours. And it's just nice to get everyone else's take and how they got into it. It's a great idea. So yeah, I love it.
No, thank you for the kind words, Keith, man. As I try my best, I try to keep to my word.
I love that intro as well, by the way. That's like proper nighttime radio smooth.
I do. Listen, I've got a steam company, man. I've got to go the whole hog, man. 100%, man. 100%. But no, thank you for the kind words, man. Like I said, I started this Life Stories content. I didn't really know where it would go, to be honest with you. But yeah, the response has been incredible. And welcome another brother from another mother. GTalks back on Albert JTV, I think, the second time. Have I got this right? First time, second time?
You know what? I don't even know. My memory's terrible.
You know what? Whether it's the first time, second time, welcome aboard, man. My brother, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know what? I'm cool, man. Obviously, you know what I mean? I watch your stuff. I love what you're doing in terms of creating content. And so when I got the message, I was literally, I think I happened to kind of have my phone in my hand and I responded immediately and I was like, yeah, I'm down. Do you know what I mean? No. So there are obviously, me and Stephen do our thing, but there are very kind of few people in this kind of creating content, world of YouTube and Twitter that I have a lot of respect for. So, and you're definitely one of them. So it's an absolute privilege to come on your show, man.
I appreciate that. We will definitely touch on that a little bit later with one of the questions. Yeah, I've got my 2 pennies, and I'm sure you guys will have something to say as well. Big up to people in the chat. Some very lovely comments. And we're like a boy band from some of the comments I'm reading in the chat already. But big up to Jim, Silver Fox, and big up Triggsy's in the chat, man. My Cornwall besties in there, man. And Tom's in there. Big up to you guys, man. You guys are lively, man, already, man. Haven't started the show yet properly. And last but not least, first time, welcome to the red carpet, Stephen from Cannon Chatter. Stephen, it's a pleasure to get you on, man.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the invite. Honestly, you've been on our channel so many times, and you've helped us out last minute at times as well. I mean, I remember there was a time I think I couldn't get on, and you literally jumped on last minute to help us out, and we appreciate it so much. And you know, when I got the message to come on, I couldn't say no. Well, I tried really hard to say no, but you've even rearranged the time just so I could come on. So do you know what? Yeah. Thank you, and I'm really looking forward to this tonight.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen. You know what it is? When I started this series, for me, chemistry is one of the biggest things, the most important things for me doing the YouTube, and it's important for me to, when I get my mix of people on that I get it right, and I take that very, very seriously. So it was a natural fit to ask you guys to do this particular content series and get you on at the same time. And yes, looking forward to it, man. So further ado, let's get into life stories, people. I'm gonna come to, who should I come to first? I'm gonna come to GTalks first, actually.
Cool.
First part of life stories. Your Arsenal story, my friend. However way you want to start it. Why Arsenal? Earliest memories, first games. Hashtag memories.
Cool. You know what? It's like, it's funny because I really and truly shouldn't be an Arsenal fan. Really and truly, because there's no, you know, I don't have this this kind of really kind of an emotional, you know, story of how, you know, my family have supported Arsenal for generations and generations. It started with me. You know, my mum was never into football. She wasn't somebody who was into sports. And my dad came to this country, you know, during the Windrush. So his kind of sporting history was cricket. You know, that's as a West Indian man, you know, coming from West Indian culture, Trinidad and Tobago, and partly, you know, his father being Jamaican, you know, everything they lived, breathed, ate, slept cricket. But also my dad had a passion for football. So, you know, I think I got my first pair of football boots when I was about 2 years old, 3 years old. So, do you know what I mean? He was always taking me to the park. You know, really fond memories of like my dad teaching me every single sport possible. You know, even sports like badminton, for example. He was just a really sporty guy. And for me, football was the one that I kind of took to, you know, both kind of on the pitch and off the pitch. You know, I was just really interested in football. You know, whether it was playing it, whether it was, you know, collecting stickers, watching it, whatever I could do, anything to do with football, I was interested in. But in terms of like supporting Arsenal, it really kind of happened, you know, from going to school and stuff like that. You know, my dad never really got the culture of like the Premier League and English football. He loved English football, but he was one of these guys where he just supported a team that was winning. That was his thing. Like literally, I see my dad wearing a Chelsea shirt. I see him wearing a United shirt when I was growing up. He saw kind of football shirts as more of a bit of a fashion statement. It wasn't his passion, you know, it just wasn't his thing. So for me, the kind of influence, you know, in terms of supporting Arsenal came from definitely when I was going to school, you know, being in and around my kind of friend group in primary school. And at the time it was like the massive rivalry was Manchester United and Arsenal. Yeah, and it's 100%. Like you had to pick a side. In terms of my generation, it was like United and it was Arsenal, and you had to pick a side. And there was only one choice for me. Do you know what I mean? It was never going to be United. I didn't have any kind of, you know, I couldn't relate to them. You know, they weren't a London club. You know, most of my kind of friend group, the guys that I really got on well with from even a young age, as like 5 or 6, supported Arsenal. And obviously one of the massive influences for me as an Arsenal fan, kind of growing up when I was young, were just some of the players that I could relate to. Ian Wright being my favorite player of all time. Just a massive kind of, you know, just inspiration for a young Southeast London boy growing up. He was like a massive, you know, inspiration to me, just because you kind of, in him, you kind of saw yourself, and you kind of thought, oh yeah, with aspirations of being a footballer, you know, if Wrighty can do it at the age of 24, you know, breaking into professional football, then why can't we all? So yeah, so in terms of being an Arsenal fan, that's how it kind of happened, really. It was more to do with influence from my friends and from my peers. And I didn't really have the opportunity to go to many games when I was younger. We moved around quite a lot in Southeast London. But I really did enjoy when we lived in West Norwood. Now, West Norwood is kind of like a stone throw away from like Croydon, which is kind of around the corner from where Crystal Palace's home ground was. So for me, as a young boy, growing up in South London, not necessarily coming from the most privileged of homes, Crystal Palace was a team that I would actually go to and actually watch. But mainly, I would actually go to the home game when they were in the league, that was, and watch the Arsenal. And I think my first game, I can't remember the exact first year. I can't remember the exact year it was. And to be honest, I can't even remember much about the game. But I know it was Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. And to be honest, I couldn't even see much. I was so small. But for me, it was just, I was completely overwhelmed just by the atmosphere and just kind of being that close to the pitch, that it was just an amazing experience. And it was just good to get a glimpse at, Arsenal, hearing the fans, seeing the players reasonably up close. So yeah, that was it really in terms of my story. And I never kind of looked back, obviously at first, when you're at school, you support a team, and really and truly, I wouldn't even necessarily say, the real kind of love or passion starts from that age. That's when you kind of support the team, you follow the team. And then it's just over the years, obviously we're talking like what, a 30-year relationship now with Arsenal, over 30-year relationship, to a point now where, yeah, I am where I am. So yeah, that's pretty much how and why I became an Arsenal fan.
Beautiful, G, beautiful. That's the thing. Like, people have their own story and how it started in terms of their sort of Arsenal love affair. So no, it's great to hear, man. That's the whole point of me doing sort of the content series, firing the questions at the guests, and great stuff, G. Great stuff, man.
No problem,
I'm gonna come to Keith next, actually. Keith, hit me with it, mate. Give me your earliest memories, or why Arsenal. Or it doesn't even have to be a first game. What's your sort of what's the thing that sort of stands out for you?
The thing that stands out for me, this is actually, I'm going to take you way back, and I think, unless I'm very much mistaken, it's before each of you four were born. It's 12th of May 1979, Cup final day. And it's weird because, like, when you're a kid, you have some memories, and like other stuff, there's no way in a million years that you could remember it. And certain things, they just stick out like pin sharp. And I remember being aware that there was this big football match on, and I'm sat there watching it with my dad. Now, my dad's a Liverpool fan, and I can't honestly say whether he pushed me towards supporting the team in the yellow, but I do remember him asking who I wanted to win. And the game had already started, and for some reason, it was like, maybe it's instinct or fate or whatever, I wanted the team in yellow to win. And like I say, he may well have pushed me in that direction, being a Liverpool fan, because he's not going to want his lad to be supporting Man United, is he? And the big thing is just like this image, the Alan Sunderland image. And I weren't even aware at the time that we were 2-0 up, and then it was 2-2. Then there's like, 2 minutes left, and then he slides in at the back stick. It's just this image of like this moustache and his hair and his skin tight yellow top with the collars flapping around and the veins sticking out on his neck. And I've often thought, the Marco Tardelli celebration from the 82 World Cup.
82 World Cup.
Dormer in the 1990 World Cup, and he's giving it that in slow motion. Somebody needs to do that with the Alan Sunderland celebration, because I think that would absolutely knock spots off it. But that is my first memory, and I was 6 at the time. That's 42 years ago. So I've been a Gooner for 42 years now, and I think that's why I've got all this patience. Because I've seen so many bad times, but I've seen so many amazing times as well. It's up for grabs. Probably one of the greatest moments in any sporting calendar, like that finish. People talk about the Aguero, but that doesn't even compare with what we did at Anfield that night.
No.
They were possibly the best team on the planet, and we had to go there and win by 2, and no one gave us a chance. And that, again, I was watching that with my dad. That was hilarious. Obviously, being a Liverpool fan, but that's another moment that really, really sticks out. But I grew up in Hayes. I lived there till I was about 15, and then we moved to Norfolk. And the school I went to, you were either Arsenal or the other lot. And luckily, I'd already chosen my colours. I've got some mates who were one and then switched allegiances to the other, which never really sat quite right. But I feel really fortunate and privileged that for some reason I chose this team. Like I say, I think it was more out of instinct than anything else. It must have been. And there's never even been a consideration to waver. You pick a team and you stick with it, don't you?
Very true.
So yeah, those are the things that really, really stick out for me, I think.
No, good shot. I'm glad you made that point about the league title thing. Don't get me wrong, the City last day winning the title against QPR was something else, man. But it doesn't come close to 88. I'm sorry. That's not even a bias thing. It's just like you said, that Liverpool side, the likes of Hansen, Ablett, Stevie Staunton, Beardsley, Barnes, like that. You didn't go to Anfield and win. You don't even have the right to go to Anfield and turn up on the pitch. So to go there and win the title, the way we've done it is the best finish I've ever seen to a league finish.
Yeah.
Totally, 100%. So
and also QPR had Joey Barton playing for him. You know, there was comparison.
Oh god, yeah. Less than about him, the better, bloody hell. But we're gonna come to Stephen, man. So again, same question to you, mate. To give us your story about the Arsenal story for you.
All right. Yeah, kind of similar to G in the sense that I had no real right to grow up as an Arsenal fan. Obviously, my story is probably a little different coming from Northern Ireland. Over here, you either supported Liverpool or United, or Rangers or Celtic. That was kind of your choices. And I had no influence in my life. None of my family were into football. My dad was an F1 fan. So I grew up sort of watching F1 with him. But he had no interest in football. Again, Northern Ireland's more of a rugby country than a football country. So the influence would have been more sort of watching rugby and playing rugby and stuff like that. So it's kind of, there was nobody there to influence me. As I say, the friends in school, it was more sort of where I grew up. It was Rangers or Celtic, rather than sort of necessarily United or Liverpool. It was more sort of the Scottish football. Because I went to primary school, which was quite near an estate, which would have been sort of one way or the other. And I don't like to talk about sort of where I'm, what religion or any background I have. I don't talk about that. It's not really important. So it would have been one or the other. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not a follower. I don't do the normal. I don't follow what other people do, and I don't do the same thing. I like to be different and set myself apart. So I did have one friend in school who was a Chelsea fan. Yeah. And I kind of thought, I could support Chelsea. And I was like, nah, I want to be completely different. I'll be honest with you, I don't even really know how I picked Arsenal. I just kind of looked and went, yeah, I'll support Arsenal. I liked some of the players at the time. Paul Merson was my favorite ever player.
Yeah, Merson was a player. Merson was a serious baller.
I loved Paul Merson as a kid, and he would have been the reason I got into Arsenal. I think really was him as a player. In terms of things like first game and earliest memories and things like that, again, growing up as a kid, I never wanted to be in the house. I just wanted to be outside playing all the time. So I never really would have been one for sitting inside watching football or watching anything really. As I say, I watched a bit of F1 with my dad, and that was kind of it. But the rest of the time, I wanted to be outside. I wanted to play football. I didn't want to watch it. So I never even really, watched that much of Arsenal or anything. Even when I sort of said that, yeah, that's my team, I wasn't really watching them and following them that much. It wasn't until probably the 92-93 season when they did the FA Cup and the League Cup double. That was kind of when I really started to pay attention and to sort of settle down and watch football. So things like the two FA Cup finals against Sheffield Wednesday. I remember games like that. I remember Steve Morrow being dropped and breaking his arm and things. Yeah. Those are the sort of memories that live with me. And the early games in the Cup Winners' Cup when Naeem lobbed Seaman from the halfway line.
Oh, don't remind me. 95, yeah.
you know,
Painful
broke my
season.
heart. That it really did. I remember as, you know, early teens, that just broke my heart. And in terms of like a first game, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never been to an Arsenal match in my life, and it's a hard thing to take. But at the same time, I'm okay with it. You know, I've had opportunities, and I will get to the game. But I've had opportunities and recent opportunities. You know, since doing all this to go, offers of tickets and everything. But again, for me, coming from over here, it's so expensive.
Yeah,
to
100%.
get to London. You know, just for a day or two. It costs so much money, and I'm a father now. I have 2 young kids. I have a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, and it's kind of, I just can't justify spending the money. So as I say, I will at one point get, but yeah, that's kind of my background on it.
Great stuff, mate. We look forward to eventually meeting you, Steve, and G, and Keith, and JC, all of you. I've not met any of you in person, so looking forward to it, man. It's coming, man. The link ups are coming, bro. Trust me, don't worry, man. But no, great. It's great to, like I said, it's great to get you guys' opinions, man. You know, everybody's journey is different. Some people start from the Emirates era, depending on your age. Some people, it goes way back to Highbury days. People talk about Arsenal being in the mess that they're in now, in terms of probably on the pitch and off the pitch. There's fans older than me that would tell me about the Terry Neal days, because I heard they were really, really bad. So, you know, luckily, I mean, you know, I like to say my famous saying, on 21 plus VAT, but even I don't remember the Terry Neal days, to be honest with you. So I'm sure Keith will have a chat off screen about that one anyway.
Yeah, it's a few.
No, big up to you guys, man. People in the chat, thank you for your interaction and your virtual hellos. It is much appreciated. Let's move on to the next topic now. I'm going to kick off with JC. So let me bring JC in, man. Sorry, bro. There's so many people on the panel. I'm forgetting to bloody JC. Last but not least, you hit us with your story, man. Your Arsenal story, bro.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, for me, it was more of a family thing. My old man and his parents, big Arsenal fans. I got an older sister, and we were born in East London, Newham General. So she's the only one in the family that sort of went off on a different route. She went off to support West Ham, still does. But yeah, me, my old man, brother, grandparents, proper Arsenal fans. So it's a family thing for me. My first game, I had to ask my old man today, actually, because I saw the questions. I reminded myself of the questions this morning. And I remember to go into quite a few games at Highbury in sort of the mid to late 90s. But I knew I'd been to a game before then. And he tells me that the first game I went to was 92, where we beat Man City at Highbury 1-0. So I'd been 4 at the time. I can't even remember it. I'm not going to lie.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you the team lineup was, JC, if you remember. I'm not sure.
Not a chance. Not a chance. But yeah, after that, it was quite hard to get tickets. So I went to Highbury a few times to like cup games, that type of thing. But yeah, for me, family thing.
Okay, cool. Right, no, good stories, man. I like stories. This is like Jack and Nori, man. This is brilliant, man. Find out all you guys' information is brilliant. But Jason, I'm glad I didn't forget to bring you on the first question, man. That looked a bit strange, but we're going to move on to that. Jason, I'm going to start with you with the next part of life stories. So, in your opinion, JC, mate, who's the most underrated Arsenal player you've ever seen? # more recognition, # more credit.
This was a hard question.
Yeah, very hard.
This was a hard question, because obviously I'm only going off of people that I've seen play football, and everyone's going to have a different answer because they've going to see different generations of Arsenal players. And I didn't know whether or not I wanted to go with a player that was, you know, in a good Arsenal side that maybe didn't get the recognition that other Arsenal players would have got in a really, really good team, or maybe players that could have been better that maybe faded away. Denilson came to my mind at first, the young Brazilian chap. He was there for a few years and it never worked for him. But I think I'm going to struggle to pick between Monreal and Rosicky for me. Like massively underappreciated players, massively. Monreal was at Arsenal for 3 years, and I don't think he got the recognition that he deserved. No one ever really talked about him in that Arsenal side. And Rosicky, he had his fair share of injuries as well, but his technical ability was just, for me, absolutely unbelievable. And if we had a player like that today, he would walk into our team, absolutely walk into this Arsenal side. So I couldn't pick between those two, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame about Rosicky. I mean, his time at Dortmund, and I mainly see him play for the Czech Republic, and he was different class, man. What a player! It's just a shame injuries robbed him, and people like Abu Diaby, who was probably mine, and people like him, and probably Ray Parlour, for me personally, were very underrated and probably might not have got the credit they deserve. But coming to you, Keith, same question, mate. I'm sure that you've got a plethora of Arsenal players you can think of, but you got to choose one, mate. Only one.
I've got two, and it's really difficult. The first one I thought of was the Invisible Wall, number 19. Now I'm looking at this from the viewpoint of like everyone in the football world. Like we all understand and we all remember what Gilberto brought to us. But if you look at whenever someone does a Premier League team, of all years, Gilberto's never anywhere near it. And it really infuriates me when they talk about the Makelele role, because Gilberto was doing that role before Makelele was doing it. So it's the Gilberto role. It's the invisible wall. And Jake knows this, but a couple of nights ago, I think it was before, I can't even remember what game it was before now, but Gilberto's put a tweet out and said what everyone thought the score would be. So I follow him. He doesn't follow me back, obviously. But I commented, and then he commented to me. I was like, and I screenshotted it. I was like, I've got actual Gilberto Silva's just spoken to me, because that was like quite literally. I'll say it quietly because I don't want the missus or the kids to hear. That's probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. But he was.
I'm glad you said that quietly.
He was just an amazing footballer, and I think it's quite sad how we let him go, to be honest, or how he allowed himself to go, because he was going to get less opportunities. But he said himself that he wishes he'd stuck around. But the other one for me is Nigel Winterburn.
Good shout.
And it brings me back to something I forgot to mention earlier when we talked about game experiences and all that. And Stephen mentioned 1993 when we had Wednesday in the Coca-Cola Cup and the FA Cup. And I managed to go to both the FA Cup final and the replay. But the only way I could get tickets, because we were living in Kings Lynn in Norfolk at the time, was my old man went up to Sheffield Wednesday and got tickets in the Sheffield Wednesday end. And it's literally the most terrifying thing I've ever done. It's not an experience I ever wish to repeat, because trying to not celebrate when Andy Linnigan got that header in, like, what was it, like the 119th minute?
Yeah.
And people lost their minds, and it was really sketchy for a little while. And then all the Wednesday fans went, and we hung around, and the players came around with the trophy. And I'm at the front. I was 20 at the time, and I can't remember what I said, but I said something, and Nigel Winterburn heard, and he looked straight at me, put his thumbs up, and he went, "Cheers, mate." And it was like, yeah, that's like a proper, like an Arsenal player's just actually spoke to each again. The pattern's formed. It keeps repeating itself. But he's another one. So like, I don't remember him ever having a bad game. He seemed really, really solid. But he's another one. He would never get near a all-time starting 11. He very rarely got near an England squad. And he was just one of those. He was just solid all the time. Never let you down. And they're the two that stick out for me, I think. But probably Nigel Winterburn just shades it, because we all, Arsenal fans talk quite a lot about Gilberto. Other fans don't. But Nigel Winterburn, if you were to be asked who's your best left back ever for Arsenal, he may not get the shout. You got others that would probably go ahead of him. But yeah, I like him a lot. So he's mine.
Good shout. Normally it's probably, it depends. I would say depending on your age, would say people will say Winterburn. Some people will say Ashley Cole. Some people will say Kenny Sampson. It's just one player who people speak about very highly. Obviously, I never got to see play, but incredible. Good shouts, Keith. That was 3 players, but I'll let you off, man, because I like you.
Sorry about that.
But I'm gonna come to G, and it's not an easy question. It's a hard question. That's why I asked it. There's certainly players you could choose from, but who for you was the one that kind of stood out?
You know what? It is a hard question, and I thought about it long and hard, and it took me some time to kind of come up with a name. But this player, let me kind of explain it. This player is, for me, he was probably just more of a kind of personal favorite. I don't know. For me, he was a fan favorite because I do hear fans speak about him highly when he's spoken about. But the problem is, I very rarely hear fans actually speak about him,
Okay.
and it's got to be the left back Silvinho.
Good shout.
When I was growing up and Silvinho was bought, into Arsenal, Nigel Winterburn was the first team left back at the time, and Silvinho was bought from Corinthians. I think he was the first Brazilian player to play for Arsenal, and he was kind of brought in as competition to Nigel Winterburn, and he was just phenomenal. Like, as much as I loved Nigel Winterburn, Silvinho he was a diddy little thing, but he was just brilliant. Technical ability, his offensive play was phenomenal, and even defensively, he was just a scrapper. He was up for a scrap. He was up for a fight. He'd get stuck in. It was none of this kind of South American player coming to the Premier League and not really handling the kind of rough and tumble of the league. Like, he for me was just one of the kind of players that really stuck out in my memory, and I very rarely hear a single Arsenal fan ever mention it. And I think maybe that's because I know when he came, he was only at the club for 2 seasons. One of the biggest memories of him is when he scored a screamer against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge.
Bad goal.
That goal will stay in my memory for the rest of my life. That was just an absolute brilliant strike. But I think one of the reasons why he's kind of faded into a lot of Gooner's memories is because after being at the club about 2 years, the emergence of Ashley Cole happened.
Yeah.
And Ashley Cole was kind of breaking into the first team. And if you actually, because I actually did some research on him today, because I was thinking, I can't remember how long he was at the club, etc., etc. And there were some quotes from Arsene Wenger who actually said, like, at the time, they basically had to make a choice between Ashley Cole and Silvinho. And he basically said that both of them were equally as good as each other, but he kind of just had to make a choice because both of them they didn't have enough games to equally give them, the opportunities they deserve. So they went with Ashley Cole, and Silvinho obviously made it clear that, he didn't want to be an understudy. So he left. But yeah, for me, Silvinho, I think all Arsenal fans, when you think about him, you'll think, oh yeah, tidy little player, good little player. But he's definitely one of those players that Arsenal fans very rarely think of. So I think for me, I wouldn't necessarily say he was underrated, but I just don't think he gets the recognition.
And the
spoken
credit.
about enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Gee, what a shout, people.
Silvinho, man.
That screamer at Stamford Bridge. Flipping hell, mate.
Quality player, man. Quality player.
No, good shouts, man. Seriously, Stephen, I'm looking forward to hearing what you're going to say, mate. What player for you, mate, is the one that should get more recognition, mate?
Do you know what? I kind of feel a bit silly now after G's one there. Do you know, when you sent through the sort of questions you were going to ask, again, I had to really sort of stop and think about it. And you mentioned there was 2 people sort of sprung to mind, and you've already mentioned one of them. And the more I sort of thought about that one, I thought, well, actually, he probably does get a lot of recognition, because people often talk about him as someone who doesn't. So in that way, he probably does. And that was Ray Parter, the Romford Pele.
Good job.
He was underrated. Certainly at the time, he was very underrated. I think looking back on it now, people do sort of recognize more his role in the team. So then the other one for me, who I think is highly underrated and doesn't get talked about and doesn't get the recognition. Kate's already mentioned one of the sort of the famous back four. Winterburn. We had Tony Adams with Keown and Bold, obviously alternating, and then obviously Lee Dixon at the other side. But the one that people tend to leave out when they talk about the famous back four is old safe hands himself, David Seaman.
Very true.
To me, massively underrated. And it's funny when a team's playing well, people don't talk about the goalkeeper. When a team's playing bad and conceding goals, they talk about the goalkeeper. So it shows how well David Seaman did that he wasn't talked about that much. I remember especially those sort of the run in the Cup Winners' Cup, the 2 years that we were back-to-back finals. We went in 1 year, we got to the final the next, and obviously we talked about 9 lobbing them from the halfway line. But in those cup runs, we had quite a few penalty shootouts. And every time it went to penalties, she just went, yeah, we're going through. Seaman's going to save these. And he did the same thing for England as well, saving penalties. You know, he was so underrated. So yeah, that for me, one of the most underrated players I can remember.
Very true.
This some serious shouts, man. You know what, Steve? I'm glad you mentioned Seaman. I said it before. I thought for a period, I would say from about, I'd say probably 94, 95 to about 98. I thought he was untouchable. No one forgets was it 3 penalty saves against Sampdoria in the Winners' Cup semi-final? That's outstanding, and that was a top Sampdoria side, by the way. Listen, when you go back to Serie A back in them times, mate, it weren't no joke, man. You finish in the top 5, you'd be lucky to get in the top 5 because the standard was that high. But great shout out to Seaman, and you're right, not just for Arsenal, for England as well, and he deserved that nickname of Safe Hands, man. Trust me. I'm going to throw a quick player in there as well. This is going way back. I remember seeing him play, but I think he's very underrated. Paul Davis.
Oh, yes.
So elegant on the ball, man. Like, and another one, you make a good point about Silvino. No Arsenal fan would mention him, to be honest with you. And again, Paul Davis, a lot of people remember Paul Davis, but yeah, very, very, very underrated player. Excellent on the ball, man. And you know what? I reckon he probably might do a bit of a better job than some of our midfielders that we've got now, to be honest with you. But that's a whole other subject, man. That's a whole other subject. But no, guys, great stuff, man. Great stuff, honestly. Right, I'm going to move to the next question now. I'm going to kick off with Keith, actually. Yes, what made you want to get into creating a football YouTube channel, and how have you found your experience of it? # pros and cons.
This is such a good question. When this one come through, I was like, if this was just like my show, me talking about, I could talk about this for an hour easily, but obviously I won't do that. See, I'm quite new to the whole Twitter scene, the Arsenal Twitter scene. I signed up to Twitter probably 10 years ago, but I had like the little egg profile picture for the longest time. Remember that? It used to be an egg. Maybe not, I'm really old. But it's only like the last year, 18 months I've been into it, and I started by watching it was Republic of Arsenal, Anthony's channel, and then I got into watching yours, Albert. And then I just thought, I mean, there's quite a lot of people know this. I'm quite open about it. I've suffered with depression and anxiety for at least a decade, and in all that time, it's kicked my ass really, really badly. And you just let it like overtake you. And I got to a point where I was like, no, I'm not. I need to do something to like get myself back. And I used to watch you guys doing all this, and I think, God, the thought of doing that is absolutely like terrifying. But there was so much I wanted to say, and you can't get it out in all your little characters on a tweet. 100%. And I just sat there one day with my mobile phone, and I thought, I'm going to record this and I'm going to post it, and I did, and I felt really good. I'd made a point of not looking at any comments just in case anyone was being really, really savage. And it was a couple of days later, I looked back and I looked at the comments, and I think you were one of the first guys, Albert, to comment on it, and I really, really appreciated that. And then about a day later, a certain man wearing a red hoodie down there, he got in touch with me and asked me to go on Cannon Chatter. And the thing is, you do get negatives from doing this. We've all experienced it. But what you got to do is, like, you look at the amount of positivity that comes out of it. The negatives are probably 3, 4, 5%, but they're the things that stick in your mind. And I see a lot of people who I've interacted with, especially on Twitter. You see some of the stick that they get and the abuse, and it's absolutely hateful. But you got to try to just remember that the 97% are all the positive stuff. And I'm sat here talking with you guys now, and I class each and every one of you as really good mates, even though we've never met in person. We've done this quite a lot, and I know that when we do get to meet, it'll feel perfectly normal. And I see loads of names in the chat. I class so many of them as really, really good mates as well, and that's what I take from it. Is the fact that I've met, albeit digitally so far, so many amazing people I've got all the time in the world for. And if one of you asked me to drop everything and drive to wherever you are if you needed help, then I feel like I would do that. And that for me is the biggest thing. And I still talk about the depression and anxiety because I believe this is a really powerful platform to do that. And even if by someone like me speaking out and somebody who hasn't had the strength to talk about it themselves, if that helps one person, then that's amazing stuff. I don't want to turn this into like a I'm not looking for sympathy or anything like that.
No,
I think
feel
it's
free,
very
man.
important to talk about. Like I say, even if it helps just one person, there's loads of other people out there doing really good stuff to help people with mental health issues as well.
Yeah,
Guy in the chat, John Jordan, he's setting up his own channel and he's going to focus quite heavily on that, and that needs to be supported as well. But yeah, I mean, mostly it was just I wanted to vent, and I think it was not long after the first leg against Villarreal when we went for the false nine thing, and I lost my shit massively over that, and I've been more or less Arteta in most of the time, but I really wavered. It's like, why are you doing that in the first leg of the European semi-final? And that was one of my first real rants. But it's a great way of getting things off your chest. It's an amazing form of therapy. Even if you just sit and do a video on your own and then post it and don't do it live, you just get it all out there. It's like, I feel great now. I'll go have a cigar. This is brilliant. But yeah, overall, this has been a really awesome experience. I absolutely love it.
Brilliant. Great words, Keith. Great words. No, great stuff, man. Good to hear your thoughts on that. I'm gonna come to Stephen, actually. Stephen, hit me with it, mate. Tell me, give me your thoughts on why YouTube channel and obviously the pros and cons, mate.
So why a YouTube channel? Do you know, it all came about similar to Keith. I wasn't really one big into Twitter and stuff. I didn't really have much of a Twitter presence as such. I did follow a few people, and I got into a conversation one night with someone, an Arsenal fan. I can't even remember what it was about, but during that conversation, there was this other fella got involved, and the conversation went really well. It went back and forth. Really good debate. Really good debate. I really enjoyed the debate that night. I kind of came off thinking that was good. I enjoyed that. I might start to interact with people more often. And the next thing I get a DM on my phone, and I look at it, and it was the fellow that I've been interacting with, and he was like, I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed your points of view and stuff. Really good, interesting conversation. And I sort of jokingly said to him, oh, maybe I should start a YouTube channel. And he's like, yeah, I'd watch that. And I sort of went, cool. And I said, well, sure, if I do it, I'll have to get you on. And that was G. So, that was our first ever interaction with that night. And later on that evening, I set up Cannon Chatter. So I set it up just obviously as a Twitter page initially. And the idea was that it would go to YouTube and other platforms and stuff. But I wanted to do it right. I didn't just want to jump in and launch a channel the next day. So I started watching a lot of different Arsenal YouTube channels and stuff. And there was a lot of them I didn't like. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of people out there doing stuff, and you're like, I'm a sales professional. I've been in sales all my life, so I can read body language. I can read people. I can tell very much who's doing things for clicks and for likes, and who's doing things because they genuinely mean it. I had conversations with people in the sort of YouTube community and stuff, and you could tell very quickly that all they were interested in was being famous. They weren't doing it because they enjoyed doing it. So I worked at it long and hard. I say it took 6 months between setting up the Twitter page and the first show. And it was in sort of very early February of the following year. So we set the Twitter page up at the end of August. Early February the next year, which was last year, I obviously kept in contact with G. And the idea was always I was doing it on my own. And the more I watched these channels, the more I thought, no, this needs to be two people. And I got in contact with G, and we exchanged phone numbers, and we had a phone call and a chat. And I said to him, listen, do you want to come on board and do this with me? And And he obviously was grateful and said yes and happy to do it. And it kind of went from there. And do you know what? We've been very fortunate. We've had some brilliant support along the way. You know, people like Martin from Gunforce Edits does all our graphics and all for us, and
Good
he's
man.
been absolutely fantastic. Nothing's ever a chore for him. Anytime I want something, and G, I'll tell you, my creative juices are probably flowing the most in the middle of the night. You know, I'll be lying in bed at night time and just come up with random ideas of things we should do or things we should try, and I'll literally message Martin in the morning and say, right, this is my idea. Can you come up with a graphic for it? And by that afternoon, I've got something, you know, and that starts the idea. So we've been really fortunate that way. You know, so Canon Chatter's not just me and G, and obviously now Lottie as well. There's those other people that have helped us out along the way, and it's kind of strange. I never got into it thinking that I'm going to make so many friends, but I've met so many great people like Keith, yourself. This is the first time I'm meeting Jake tonight, but obviously, you know, seeing his stuff, and it's amazing the fact that we're all essentially competing for the same audience, but we're all willing to help each other out. You know, and that's the thing, and everybody's happy to go on everybody else's show. And at the start I thought, well, everybody's going on everybody else's show just to try and get followers for their own show. And I very quickly realized it's not like that. Everybody's just going on everybody else's show because they're happy to do it and they enjoy talking to each other, and it's great. And, you know, as we sort of said before, I'm looking forward to the day that we all do get to meet. I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic day. You know, G is one of my best friends, and I've never met him in my life. Yeah, we've never physically met.
Top stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, good shot. Listen, this is Tony. This is a proper hallmark moment, man. This is nice. Man. I like this. This is beautiful, man. But no, great, Stephen. Great stuff, man. Guys, JC, before I come to you, obviously I have my little 2 pennies worth. I've spoken about this before, and obviously the other life stories content series in terms of the guests that I've got on, and it's just interesting with this type of question in particular, to get everybody's sort of thoughts and views about it. And I guess for myself, really, people had said to me for quite a few years, actually, they were surprised that I hadn't sort of got into the YouTube side of it, and I said, it's not that I didn't want to. I didn't really kind of think about it, really. And to be honest, everybody was doing it, and I can only imagine, not just in terms of people that set up a YouTube channel in the UK, this is global. So there's a lot of competition out there in terms of getting content out there. So obviously, I've been very open about life outside of YouTube for myself. I'm an open book with that. It doesn't faze me. Very in touch with my emotions. So losing my mum was a massive factor. Had a deep conversation with my eldest sister. So what, I'm surprised you haven't got into what you're going to do. You should do it. I said, okay. Didn't know anything about YouTube, man. I watched it. I didn't have a clue. I'm not a great tech person. I generally, honestly, am not. I still am not. But yeah, with YouTube, I said that this conversation with JC plenty of times off camera, and the boys RJ, Gunasols, and Kesh. You learn very, very quickly people's intentions and how they are with you, really. And not everybody wants the best for you, and it manifests and it shows in very different ways, whether that's through a tweet, a DM, an Instagram post. It comes very, very apparent. I'm not here to, I'm not portraying as if I've got the best channel out there. I try to be original. I try to be consistent. And for me, I made a conscious decision sort of 2020, sort of September, October, that I put a lot of work into my channel, but I didn't want to sort of give up on it because there were a lot of things that were going on in terms of impending redundancy and obviously grieving over my mum. So I took a back seat, and it's the best thing I could have done. I still did content, but I just didn't do it very often. And that's kind of still been the case even now. That might surprise some people. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, like I don't do as much content as I did when I first started. Absolutely not. But I pick and choose when I do it. And if people want to come and watch our stuff, my stuff, subscribe, watch the channel, fantastic. I'm not gonna beg for you to come and watch my channel. If you like what I do, then you like what I do. But yeah, JC, sort of coming to you, mate. What's your thoughts and feelings about the question on the screen, mate?
Yeah, well, we started YouTube pretty much around about the same time, didn't we? Many moons ago now. I think you were one of the first people that I ever spoke to when getting into the whole YouTube scene. And I think it was your Twitter aviator that I saw and I was really jealous of. And I asked how you'd done it. You told me that you'd got it off of someone on Fiverr, and then the conversation started from there. And I'd already set the channel up by that point. But it's quite funny because I never even thought about doing YouTube ever. I got two young boys, and they're absolutely obsessed with gaming on YouTube. And my youngest, he was like, "Dad, I want to set up a YouTube channel." And it ended up just becoming a bit of a phase. So I ended up having to go through all the research of how to do it because I'm not techie myself. And he got bored after a couple of months. And I'd been watching a lot of Arsenal YouTube channels, and I was like, "Yeah, do you know what? I fancy a bit of this," because I didn't have anyone at the time to like sort of vent or share my opinions with when it came to Arsenal. And similar to Keith, it was an opportunity for, even though I wasn't necessarily talking to anyone physically, just get in front of the camera, have that kind of like one-on-one to yourself therapy, get it all out. And then you kind of felt a little bit better after for it. But I'm really, really grateful I've got into YouTube. There are ups and downs, and there are some people out there that aren't very nice, unfortunately. And, there was one point way back when I first started where I literally got obsessed with YouTube. I was doing videos every single day. It took over my life. I had to take a step back.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm doing a much more sort of structured and scheduled, sensible way of doing it now. But I'm glad I stuck with it because, I've met some fantastic people along the way. I'm meeting yourself and Keith on the 19th of February, Tom in the chat as well. I'm meeting up with him. There's loads of people that, had I have not started, YouTube, I would never have met some of these Arsenal fans. I've spoken with Stephen and G on the DMs on Twitter before now, asking them to come onto my channel and stuff in the future. And it's all these conversations that I never would have had. And I would have just been sat in my living room otherwise, screaming at the telly every week by myself, stressing. So no, it's I'm really, really, really glad I got into it. But yeah, suppose I thank my sons really.
No, yeah, big up JC sons, man. Definitely, man. But now, guys, it's great to get your opinions, and particularly with that question, I'd say more so than any others I've sort of asked you tonight, because that's why I put the hashtag at the end, hashtag pros and cons, because there is not everybody wants the best for you, man. So when I see hashtag come on you Gunners, hashtag Arsenal family, I'm like, really? Are you really, really behind it? Because I've seen a lot of changes with a lot of people in terms of, I'm speaking about myself here in regards to how they interact. That's probably the nicest way I can put it. But you know what it is, You stick to your own lane. You do what you feel is right. If people, like I said, they want to collab with you, they'll collab with you. You're not going to please everybody. And that's just the cold, hard facts of it. But enough said about that. Let's move on to the final question. This is a good one, man, I think, anyway. Right, I'm going to kick off with Stephen, actually. Bit of a left field question, but you can relate it to football, obviously. So who are your sort of sporting icons and people that you looked up to when growing up?
So, yeah, as I say, I said earlier on, I didn't really have a background of football. I mean, as I say, I like going out and playing football in the street and stuff, but in school and things, I went to grammar school, and over here, you go to a grammar school, you play rugby. I'm not sure if that's the same over in England and stuff, but certainly over here, if you go to a grammar school, you play rugby. That's it. You don't play football. But one of the sports that I actually really enjoyed playing was basketball.
Good shot.
And believe it or not, I am actually a very good basketball player.
I believe you, Stephen. I definitely believe you, bro.
So yeah, growing up, one of my idols, one of my sporting icons, as you put it, would have been Michael Jordan. I grew up around the time of the Bulls and the Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman, those sort of players, watching the Bulls win back-to-back championships. And just everything about Michael Jordan, the way he conducted himself on the court, You know, he was just a pure winner. And I just loved everything about the man. I really did. Yeah, that would be my main sort of sporting icon as a teenager.
Stephen, I might come back to you because I can even broaden out that question. It might even be people that are currently you've watched in terms of sporting arena atmosphere, even sort of the last maybe 5-10 years or even a bit longer. So I'll probably come back to you because there's a few people I'm going to add as well. But I'm going to come to Keith, mate. Hit me with it, Keith, man. Sporting icons, whether that be past or even current or present, whatever. Or mute. Oh, he's on mute.
Every time I do that, I'm always doing that at work as well.
It's all right, Keith, bro.
Right, there's always one, isn't there? I've got two. Right, football.
Yeah.
David Rocastle, without doubt. He
shout.
is my first memory of a footballer playing for Arsenal that I could relate to. He was local. He loved the club. He wore the same number as me, played the same position. That's where the similarities, like, they stopped because obviously he was like world-class footballer and I weren't.
Yeah.
But there was something about him. And obviously, you know, with his tragic early passing and everything, it puts it into... It's good because it brings him into the consciousness of younger fans who weren't around to see him play, but to actually see him play and see how the crowd reacted to this guy. It was unbelievable. I still get goosebumps now thinking about it. I've still got the program picture of him up there. It's there every video I do. He kind of transcended just being a footballer for Arsenal. It was something a little bit different. But the other one for me, it's really cool that Stephen's just mentioned NBA. I didn't know you were an NBA fan, Stephen. I am as well. And for me, it's Kobe. Kobe is the reason that I got into NBA. Kobe is the reason I'm a Lakers fan. And, you know, you read a lot about the Mamba mentality. And quite often that's misconstrued as to being is just about winning at all costs. And his mind games were the best. Of Michael Jordan and him, they used to banter quite a lot, and Michael Jordan taught him a lot. And if ever you watch the Kobe memorial where Michael Jordan's talking about Kobe, he refers to him as his little brother. And the thing about Kobe that strikes me most, and I use him as a role model for my kids, if they're being a bit lazy and, you know, they just want to sit on the sofa and not do anything or not do their homework to, you know, as well as they can do, you look at Kobe, and he was always the last one to come out of the gym, the last one to come off the court. His work ethic was literally just peaks above everyone else. And it's a way of teaching kids that your natural ability will get you so far, but it will get you to that point, and then that's when your work ethic kicks in for you to go to that next level and to be as good as you possibly can be. And dad of 4 girls as well, so there's a common ground there. Oscar winner. I don't know if anyone's seen the short documentary that he did, or the poem that he wrote that won him an Oscar. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, the guy, you know, he was a real special case. So for me, it's sporting icon, but for more than just sporting reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, great shout. And also, I'm sure many people have seen it in terms when you mentioned about David Rocastle when Ian Wright done the documentary.
Oh yeah.
That really was something, man. Anybody that hasn't seen that, well, I don't know where you've been, but if you haven't, go and watch it. That was superb.
Properly to the big time, isn't it?
Yeah, very emotional, very emotional. I'm going to come to myself, and I'm going to bring obviously JC and G to finish off Life Stories episode 9. But for me, if you've had a conversation with me, people that know me, listen, I love my football, love Arsenal, but I grew up, I love sport. I love cricket, I love tennis, snooker, golf. I'm a massive athletics fan. When sort of secondary school days, you know, my teachers were really pushing me to sort of, they knew I love football, but to go down the athletics route. You know, I had a bit of pedigree, 100 meter, 200 meter champion 4 years in a row at secondary school. So I had something in me. It might have been all the jollof rice and chicken from an early age, possibly, and a bit of Gary and ground rice, being of African heritage. But yeah, athletics is a massive part of my life. So people like Linford Christie are phenomenal. To take on the might of the Americans and sprinting, and, you know, beat them at their own game. And yeah, he won Olympic gold in '92. But you know what? I thought him winning the world championship in '93 was I thought that was bigger, because I thought he beat a better field in that world championship final in '93. People like Denise Lewis and Kelly Holmes were massive influences for me to compete and take on the world's best in the Africans and the Americans, and not just compete, but to get medals and to win. And I think the one person for me who I'm going to mention, and this wasn't necessarily growing up, but I don't think she actually gets as much credit as she should do, and that's Christine Origo. Who ran the 400 meters for Great Britain. She was phenomenal. Two-time world champion and Olympic champion in an event that she took on the might. The 400 meters is a very loaded event in the women's, and it has been for many, many years, whether that be the Eastern Europeans, the Americans, the African competitors. She beat them all. And I don't think she gets as much credit as she deserves. I think she was phenomenal. So those were sort of the influence for me personally growing up. But yeah, JC, let me come to you, mate. Sporting icons and people that you looked up to, mate.
Yeah, from a non-sporting point of view, not to sound boring or generic, but yeah, my old man was a huge influence on my life, and he still is now. He's always been pushing me. He played football to a decent level during his day, and he was always pushing me to do my best when I used to play football. And he, even now, still to this day, like, he still texts me and stuff. He watches my videos on YouTube, having a go at me for certain opinions or not doing a certain part of the video right and all that kind of thing. So it's nice that he still, gets involved and has an influence on my life, really. But away from family, I really started to appreciate football when I was around about 10 years old. And I wouldn't say he was an icon, but I nearly sort of fell in love with Nicolas Anelka during that 98 season where he scored that goal in the FA Cup final against Newcastle. But he annoyed me because he left for Real Madrid. So he was only at Arsenal was a year.
Yeah.
And a certain Freddie Ljungberg joined the following season, and I was playing on the left wing as a youngster, and he was playing on the right. And I had a lot more hair back then compared to now. I'm bald now. But
I'll join you one day, brother. Don't worry about that, man.
But literally, I was absolutely obsessed with him. I had the same hair, the same color, shirts, like literally absolutely obsessed with Freddie Ljungberg all the way up until when he left. And thankfully now he shaved his head just for me, so we can still look the same. But but yeah, for me, yeah, Freddie Ljungberg was someone that I was just literally absolutely obsessed with growing up.
No, good shout. Before one quick mention, I'm sure G probably might have mentioned the guy. I've got to give a shout out to Ian Wright, man. Huge, him and KC, huge part of my growing up in terms of the football side of it, and successful side of it. We saw them win trophies. They were winners, the players they played with. And the thing is, if you watch the Premier League sort of icons or 100 greatest goals, go and look at Ian Wright. Some of the goals that guy scored were out of this world. And a lot of the younger generation won't have seen some of the goals Ian Wright scored or recognize how good he was. He was phenomenal. It's just a shame that he has some very, very serious strikers to compete with at the time when he's playing for Arsenal. But yeah, some of Ian Wright's goals for Arsenal were sensational. But G, close the show, my friend. Give me your thoughts, my friend.
Boy, it's hard to follow some of the icons that you guys have mentioned. But you know what? I found this really hard to kind of narrow it down because I feel like, God bless my dad's soul, but he was such a massive influence in terms of sporting, where he taught me so many sports and so many sports he watched that I found it really hard to kind of think like who could it be. But really and truly, one for me was, my early memories of watching football was not the Premier League, mainly because we never had Sky, etc., and all of that. So we used to have a black and white TV. And I remember them days, bruv, trust me. I remember coming home from Sunday school and watching Serie A on a black and white TV. It was called Football Italia.
Yes.
And sometimes you couldn't even make out who was attacking where or wherever because the whole thing was black and white. It was only if one team had stripes that you could kind of make out what team was what. So and I had a bit of a soft spot for AC Milan, and it wasn't particularly because of the team, but it was one man in particular. It was George Weah. Like for me, it's like I was never really technically gifted in terms of being a skillful footballer. I was very much how I am in life on the pitch, and I was a grafter. I was hardworking. You know, I put in a shift. I leave it on the pitch. But what I used to see George Weah do with this ball, I used to just look at him and just think, why can't I do this with the ball? Why can't I do this? I see this brother take the ball from one end of the pitch to the other end of the pitch.
Yeah, I remember that goal. Yeah,
I think it was against an Italian team called Lecce.
Yes,
and
he
literally
it's a home game. Yeah, San Siro.
And this guy was just phenomenal. And you know what makes it even sweeter is that Arsene Wenger was the guy that brought him to French football, to Monaco. And I remember when he actually won his Ballon d'Or, World Footballer of the Year, he actually dedicated the win to Arsene Wenger. And now the guy is president of Liberia. Like, how more inspirational can you get?
Yeah.
You know, phenomenal player. In terms of like outside of football, Brian Charles Lara, obviously being a West Indian, I see this guy live on Sky Sports score over 500 runs not out. I didn't even know that was possible. You know, it's literally.
I think that's a Warwick. I think it was. Yeah.
And I think the thing with Brian Lara, I think why for me he deserves more credit. Not to say more credit, but you know, the West Indian cricket team for generations was blessed with a phenomenal team. Literally beat everybody in the world. But the problem with Brian Lara was he came into the West Indian side as that generation were fading out. He literally carried the West Indies side for about 10 years. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even have been competitive at that period, because he was about the only batsman in the lineup or in the side that could actually put back to ball. Maybe him and Chanderpaul, but that was about it. So I think he was definitely a crazy kind of like inspiration, you know, like in terms of cricket. I know there have been some great batsmen like Tendulkar and so forth, but I never seen a man, you know, put a bowler all over the pitch like he has. Just never seen it. And the last one, I'm going to be greedy. I'm going to take a third.
I know you're greedy.
The last one, for me, he transcends sport, this man. And there's various reasons why that is. And that has to be the one and the only Muhammad Ali. Like, for me, this guy, he just there are certain sports personalities that transcend sport. What this guy did in the boxing ring, what he did in the political world, the you know, the obstacles he faced and surpassed in his personal life. The guy is just an absolute inspiration. Like, honestly. And to be honest, I'm going to stop there because I think just the name itself is enough. Like, I don't even need to go into it because I will literally talk for the next 3 hours. So, but yeah, those three really stand out for me. But Muhammad Ali for me is the king, both in and out of the ring.
No, brilliant. Listen, there's been a different scope. We've heard Muhammad Ali, David Rocastle, Christine Orogu, for Christie, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Families, dads. Listen, this is why I do the content series that I do, because it's fascinating to hear you guys' thoughts about particular influences and certain subjects and what your thoughts and feelings are. I can see G's having a fight there with the cat, man. God, that's a good way to end the show, man. But now, guys, this has been fantastic to get you guys on at the same time. Giving up your Friday night with Soapland and news at 10 possibly coming on at the moment as well, speaking. But now, guys, to give you a big shout out, big shout out to the people in the chat. As I said, I'll put this on my IGTV and my Instagram, and audio listeners, I'll put that out as well. Guys, amazing. Thank you for coming on the show. JC, we are the Arsenal. Where can the people find you, my friend?
Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you for inviting me on. And it was really refreshing, actually, to come onto YouTube and do something other than Arsenal content. Because normally all I do is Arsenal this, Arsenal that. So it was actually really, really nice to talk about something else for a change. And as you say, I've got a YouTube channel. We are the Arsenal. I do reviews after every game and analyse players as well. If and when Arsenal decide to sign anyone in January, you might have to wait until the summer for that. But yeah, if you fancy it, come and subscribe. But thanks once again, Albert. Really appreciate it.
No, much love, man. Much appreciated. Keith, at Mostly Arsenal, Brother, thanks for coming on. Where can the people find you, man?
Again, firstly, thank you so much for inviting me on. This is one of my favourite things. I've wanted to be on here for ages, but I'm not the sort of chap that go, Albert, can I come on your show, please? But it's an absolute, it really is. It's humbling to be invited on and to share the screen with like literally some of my favourite people on the planet. This has been
royalty on the screen. Royalty, them man.
Yeah,
Kings.
I'm in the presence of greatness, basically. And I've only sworn once as well, which makes a change. Because when I do my own stuff, I can swear loads, but I'm like, I know lots of people don't like that, so I try to be a bit respectful. But yeah, if anyone wants to find me, just there. I'm on Twitter quite a lot as the Mad Rambling one, and my channel is mostly Arsenal, where I talk mostly about Arsenal and sometimes about other random stuff. And I actually did my first live a couple of weeks ago with the two gentlemen at the bottom of your screen there, and that was absolutely brilliant. It was good. It couldn't have gone any better. And it's looking like I'll probably do another one Sunday night with the gentleman in the middle top of the screen and some other rogues as well. So yeah, if that sounds like what you like, then come and have a look. But thank you again, Albert. Much appreciated, mate.
Many blessings, Keith. Very kind words. Stephen, first time on Albert JTV, I believe, but you mate, fantastic debut. You're welcome back anytime, man. Where can the people find you?
Brilliant, thank you. Listen, first of all, let me say again, thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it. It's been great to finally get on your channel after you've been on our channel so many times. This isn't about us. This is your channel. So for anybody that's watching, if you're not subscribed to Albert, make sure and hit that subscribe button now. Hit the like button on this video. He does some fantastic stuff. Keep following him. In terms of our channel, I'll let G do that, seeing he didn't get to give his opinion or his bit on how he became a YouTuber.
No problem.
Well,
yeah, no. What's that?
Tell us, give us a little monologue. Go on, man.
Oh no, you know what? To be honest, like Stephen pretty summed it up. Obviously, I've always been into kind of football and talking about football. I could talk about football for England if it was actually a job or a sport. As people know, I think that's where GTalks Arsenal comes from. So, but yeah, no, really and truly, I got this man to thank, Stephen. I don't think I probably would have ever done it, actually taken the plunge and done it. I did get more active on Twitter with regards to football Twitter during the kind of COVID situation where there was a lockdown, there wasn't much to do. But I don't think, had I not met, Stephen virtually, and had he not kind of posed the question and kind of invited me to say, what, I'm doing this thing, and would you like to come along with me with the journey? I probably wouldn't have done it, to be honest. So I've got a lot to thank in terms of Stephen, just kind of giving me that, just kind of gave me that extra push that I needed, really. And that's pretty much it in terms of why and why I wanted to, or how I came about doing content. In terms of the pros, obviously I love it. Loves talking about Arsenal. I've met so many amazing people like yourself and everybody on this panel tonight, people in the chat. Obviously the cons, yeah, you come across some people that are not very nice, not very pleasant. At first I kind of found it a little bit tricky to deal with people leaving negative comments on my content, or kind of DMing me negative things, but I've kind of got used to it now. I kind of got a little bit desensitized to it. At first, it used to wind me up, used to get me annoyed, but now I just kind of keep it moving. Really, I'm just there's so many. I've got so much in my life that I can be grateful for. That I'm fortunate to be grateful for. Yeah, I'm not rich, but richness and wealth is not always monetary or what you've got in your bank account. So I've got a lot to be grateful for, and I'm very thankful and privileged for that. So I'm just not gonna let some geezer who's hasn't got a display picture, who's sent me a bad message, ruin my day, because it's just not really worth it. And that's how I kind of look at it now. And to be fair, on the vast majority of it, it's been really, really positive. But the negative ones, I just kind of ignore it and just keep it moving. So yeah, that's pretty much my opinion on that. In terms of obviously coming on this show, really, really privileged to come on the show. Thank you so much, Albert. Like I said, when I got the message, I literally replied instantly, because I just thought this is a show that I have watched several times, and I thought, like Keith said, it's one that I really, really wanted to be a part of, but I wasn't going to be like, oh, Albert, can I come on your show, please? So I'm really, really glad that, you invited me. But yeah, obviously I'm on Twitter, GTalks Arsenal. That's the way you can find me. But most importantly, obviously, like Stephen said, you know, this show is all about you. Life Stories is an amazing, you know, kind of, you know, episode within your actual channel and your platform. So, you know, I have to echo what Stephen said. You know, if you haven't liked the video, like the video. If you're not subscribing for some strange, bizarre reason, make sure you do subscribe to Albert JTV. And yeah, that's about it. Obviously, you know, me and Stephen represent Cannon Chatter TV.
Yes.
If you've not seen our stuff, you know, go and check us out. But yeah, that's about it.
Like I say, people, don't think about it. Go and do it, man. Go and follow everybody, subscribe, Twitter, everything, do everything. Guys, thank you for the kind words. For me, when I started YouTube, I knew straight away that as much as I love Arsenal, I wasn't only ever going to do my channel with Arsenal content. I wanted to think outside the box. And big up Judge Dredd, the law of the simple comment. When you got haters, you know you're doing something right. Listen, you said it. If there's things that happen in your life, you feel blessed. I haven't got time for people who want to drop negative comments or send indirect tweets or send indirect things in a live stream. I haven't got time for that. Life's too short. I've got too many things to worry about. So my life is blessed, man. So big up to all you guys in the chat. Big up to the guys on the panel. This is Life Stories, episode 9, people. We are over and out. See you soon, peeps.